On November 29, 2025, the pre-dawn calm on Russia's Black Sea coast was shattered by a series of powerful explosions that echoed across the water, jolting residents awake and sending emergency crews scrambling. The target was no ordinary facility. The Caspian Pipeline Consortium, or CPC, is a sprawling oil terminal and one of Russia's most critical export points, handling millions of barrels of oil each day. At precisely 4:06 a.m., it was struck by a surprise attack that would have far-reaching consequences. This was not a conventional assault. Instead, a fleet of advanced sea drones, small, unmanned boats packed with high explosives, slipped through the darkness, guided remotely by operators miles away. Their approach was silent, almost ghostly, evading traditional defenses. When the drones reached their target, they detonated with pinpoint accuracy. The resulting blasts sent shockwaves through the region, lighting up the night sky and causing chaos at the terminal. The CPC terminal is not just a vital hub for Russia, it's a linchpin in the global oil supply chain, making this attack especially significant. Hours later, dramatic video footage surfaced online, showing the drone's final approach and the massive fireballs that erupted as they struck, leaving parts of the facility engulfed in flames. While Ukraine did not officially claim responsibility, investigators quickly found evidence pointing strongly in their direction, including drone fragments and digital signatures. The attack fits a growing pattern. Ukraine leveraging cutting-edge technology and innovative tactics to strike at the heart of Russia's economic lifelines, far from the front lines. In the immediate aftermath, operations at the terminal ground to a halt, oil exports were frozen, and global markets reacted instantly, with oil prices spiking and investors bracing for further instability. This strike was a calculated move, designed not just to damage infrastructure, but to disrupt Russia's war funding and send a clear message about the vulnerability of its economic assets. The conflict has now expanded beyond the battlefield. Economic warfare, targeting supply chains, energy exports, and financial systems, is now front and center in this high-stakes struggle. The world took notice. With this attack, the war had escalated into a new high-tech phase, raising the stakes for everyone involved and signaling that the front lines are no longer just physical. They're digital and economic as well. The CPC terminal isn't just a Russian asset, it's a vital artery in the world's energy system, connecting distant oil fields to global markets. This sprawling facility is a linchpin in the global oil supply, handling millions of barrels that fuel economies from Europe to Asia. Stretching 1,500 kilometers from Kazakhstan's vast oil fields to the Black Sea coast, the pipeline delivers about 1% of the world's daily oil, enough to power entire nations and keep industries running. The consortium behind the CPC is a rare blend of interests, including American giants like Chevron and ExxonMobil, as well as Russian and Kazakh firms, making it a truly international venture. Any disruption here sends shockwaves through international markets, instantly raising oil prices and sparking diplomatic tensions that can be felt in boardrooms and government offices worldwide. For Kazakhstan, the stakes are especially high. The country relies on this pipeline for the majority of its oil exports, so even a brief shutdown threatens its economic stability and future growth. The attack puts U.S. interests in a difficult position, as American companies are not just investors, they're deeply involved in daily operations and profits. The CPC's international nature turns any strike into a diplomatic flashpoint, drawing in not just military strategists, but also diplomats and energy ministers from around the world. Kazakhstan's carefully maintained neutrality is now under pressure, as its economic lifeline runs through Russian territory, making it vulnerable to both political and military risks. The incident is a stark reminder that the Ukraine war's impact stretches far beyond the battlefield, affecting energy security and economic stability across continents. In today's world, oil, politics, and international alliances are more deeply entangled than ever, each crisis revealing just how interconnected our global systems have become. The sea drone attack crippled Single Mooring Point 2, a key offshore loading buoy at the CPC terminal. With SMP-2 destroyed, the facility's capacity was slashed, forcing a total halt to oil loadings. Safety concerns and the risk of further attacks kept operations frozen. The sudden loss of 1% of global oil supply sent traders scrambling and prices climbing. The effects were immediate: higher fuel costs and economic anxiety worldwide. Repairing offshore infrastructure is slow and dangerous, especially under threat of more strikes. The shutdown could mean sustained higher prices and energy insecurity if repairs drag on. The attack exposed the vulnerability of global supply chains to regional conflict. Ukraine's strategy: create lasting headaches for Russia and its partners, not just a temporary disruption. The world's energy web is more fragile than ever. One night's attack in the Black Sea echoed across continents. Ukraine's strike on the CPC terminal is part of a broader campaign to target Russia's economic engine. Oil and gas fund Russia's war, hitting them strikes at the heart of its power. Long-range drone attacks disrupt revenue and send a message to Russian citizens: the war is close to home. Ukraine's homemade sea drones, cheap but effective, have become a signature weapon. Recent attacks on oil tankers show Ukraine is targeting the entire Russian oil trade, not just infrastructure. With front lines stalled, these strikes let Ukraine inflict real damage without direct confrontation. It's asymmetric warfare technology and ingenuity against brute force. By undermining Russia's economy, Ukraine hopes to shift the balance and force negotiations. The battlefield now includes pipelines, ports, and the global economy itself. The CPC attack was just one part of a violent night across the region. As Ukraine struck Russian oil assets, Russia launched its own barrage against Ukrainian targets. Ukrainian drones also hit two oil tankers, the Virat and the Kairos, in the Black Sea, allegedly carrying Russian oil. Turkey confirmed explosions on both ships, underscoring the reach of Ukraine's naval drones. These coordinated strikes show Ukraine's evolving strategy: disrupt Russia's oil exports at every stage. The Black Sea has become a high-tech battleground, with drones challenging Russia's naval dominance. Ukraine's drone fleet, built after losing much of its navy, now projects power far beyond its shores. The night's events proved the war's front lines are fluid, stretching from land to sea. The stakes in the Black Sea have never been higher. While Ukraine targeted Russian oil facilities in a bold move to disrupt Moscow's war machine, the response from Russia was swift and devastating. Russia unleashed a massive missile and drone assault on Ukrainian cities, launching waves of attacks that lit up the night sky and sent millions scrambling for shelter. The stated target was military infrastructure, but in reality, it was ordinary people who suffered most: families forced to flee their homes, children woken by explosions, and neighborhoods left in ruins. In Kyiv, apartment blocks burned for hours, windows shattered from the shockwaves, and thick smoke billowed into the freezing night air. Emergency crews raced against time to save lives, pulling survivors from the rubble. 3 people died, dozens were injured, and the true toll may never be fully known. Over 500,000 people lost power as winter loomed, leaving entire neighborhoods cold and dark, with families huddling together for warmth. Nationwide, 600,000 were plunged into darkness, their lives upended in an instant by the relentless barrage. Ukrainian officials accused Russia of deliberately targeting civilian infrastructure, aiming to break the country's morale and force surrender through fear and deprivation. Yet, these attacks have only hardened Ukrainian resolve. Communities come together, supporting one another and refusing to be broken. The war's symmetry is brutal. Ukraine strikes at Russia's economy, while Russia retaliates by striking at Ukraine's cities, creating a cycle of destruction. Both sides now rely on advanced technology, drones, missiles, and satellite intelligence, to inflict pain far from the front lines, making nowhere truly safe. For Ukrainians, the threat of missiles and drones is a constant shadow, forcing families to shelter underground and live in fear of the next attack. For the world, the human cost of this conflict is impossible to ignore: grieving families, shattered communities, and a nation under siege. The cycle of retaliation continues, with each strike fueling more anger and more suffering on both sides. And as the war drags on, it is civilians, caught in the crossfire, who pay the highest price, their resilience tested with every new attack. Even as missiles fly, Ukraine is pushing for a diplomatic solution. Hours after the oil terminal attack, a Ukrainian delegation prepared for high-stakes talks in the U.S. Their goal aligned with American leaders on a revised peace plan. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will lead the U.S. side. The outcome could shape the next phase of the war and any future settlement. President Zelensky is also set to meet France's Emmanuel Macron, seeking continued European support. These diplomatic moves run parallel to military action, showing Ukraine's two-pronged strategy. Ukraine's ability to strike deep into Russia strengthens its hand at the negotiating table. Any peace deal, Ukraine insists, must respect its sovereignty, not be a surrender. The world is watching to see if diplomacy can break the cycle of violence. Amid war and diplomacy, Ukraine faces political upheaval at home. President Zelensky dismissed his chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, after a major corruption scandal. The move was a response to mounting pressure from both citizens and Western allies demanding reform. Yermak's ouster signals Zelensky's commitment to fighting corruption, even at the highest levels. The shakeup comes as Ukraine's delegation heads to the U.S., raising questions about stability. How Zelensky manages this transition will affect international confidence and support. Leadership under fire, both from Russia and within, will shape Ukraine's next steps. The sea drone attack on Russia's oil terminal is a global event, not just a regional skirmish. It marks a new era of warfare, where technology lets smaller nations strike powerful blows. The conflict now spans battlefields, economies, and cyberspace. Critical infrastructure is fair game. Disrupting the CPC terminal sent oil prices up, affecting wallets worldwide. The world's interconnectedness means a single attack can ripple across continents. Diplomatically, the strike signals Ukraine's strength as it seeks peace talks. The war's violence is mirrored on both sides, with civilians and economies suffering. The events of November 29, 2025, show how high the stakes have become. The Ukraine war is reshaping Europe and touching lives everywhere. The need for resolution is urgent, but the path remains perilous.